And it would not be a House Burlington joint if we didn't forget to swap out the title card, because in case you are just joining, what's going on, everybody? It is me, Sean Tank Top. I'm over here at Casa de Tank Top. I am joined by the lovely duo, the Draces over there. I got Dustin and Morgan. What's going on, kids?
Hello, Mr.
Doing
Tank
great.
How you guys doing? All right, so I do like that. That's just such a vote of confidence for people that are joining us on the stream right now, where it's like we punt. The royal I literally forgot to upload the updated title for this episode right now, because in case you guys were wondering, we're going to be talking about Lovecraft Country. This is Lovecraft Country live stream Thursdays that we're going to be doing until the end of the show. And we are talking about not episode 1, but episode 2, Whitey's on the Moon. Big old deuces is the ones that we're fucking talking about today, ladies and gentlemen. Hope everybody's doing good out there on the chat. Everybody, what's going on, y'all? Good to see you. And so we're talking about the second episode. The second episode of Lovecraft Country, entitled Whitey's on the Moon, is directed by Daniel Stackheim.
Yep.
Who's got like a pretty impressive little fucking career, like directed like stints on the X-Files, Law and Order, NY Piddle Blue.
Making up for his propaganda past.
That's right, absolutely. Yeah, he lionized too many policemen and shit like that back in the day. He's done like for The Walking Dead, Americans, Ozark, and all that stuff, including the 3rd and 4th episodes of season 6 of Game of Thrones.
So is that Oathbreaker and Book of the Stranger?
Interesting. I mean, like those are a couple of good episodes. I mean, like that was when shit, dude. That was fucking. That was
when we were still elbow deep in that show.
And it was still slapping pretty hard and stuff like that. But what was slapping hard, I think, was this episode, aired this past Sunday, written by Misha Green, entitled "Whitey's on the Moon," named after an absolutely fantastic song by Gil Scott-Heron, the great Gil Scott-Heron, R.I.P. And we're going to be talking about that. So just like a little bit of shout out to everybody, we got ourselves we're going to be highlighting the things that we're talking about. We got some categories that we kind of break down every episode each week and stuff like that. Feel free to shout out if you got a different read, if you think that there's a different MVP for this episode, or if there's a different moment that's so 2020. Remember, make sure you shout us out in the comments. Also, to anyone out there, if you want to make damn sure that we will either address a question or a comment or a theory or anything like that you guys are super stoked that you want to hear our feedback on, you can do a super chat for any amount of money. And just one other thing, you can feel good about that for 2 reasons. One, obviously we love the super chats. They're always great. But 2, it's going for a portion of that is going towards the Milwaukee Bond Fund, which is pledged to help out a bunch of the protesters in Kenosha right now. All of the people that have been on the streets that have possibly been picked up by Kenosha PD, and all of the lovely people that seem to be running that
dialogue when I saw that.
Dude, oh my God. The weird, the sheriff or whatever it was. Or just like, I was like,
we need to warehouse people.
Right. Seriously. Like he should have had 2 dogs and a dumbass looking straw hat and a big cigar, like that one idiot chick with the dogs did in this episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it would have at least it would have been more becoming of the part. You know what I mean? But like,
I felt like his dialogue was a little hacky. Not gonna lie.
Little hacky, not necessarily. Oh, I might be on Wi-Fi actually. But yeah. So the one thing that I want to. Actually, and the Wi-Fi's on and everything. I totally turned off. Just so you guys know, I want you guys to, I'm going to be cutting out for just 1 second, but I'll be right back. So Draces, entertain our guests while I
jazz hands.
It might not take me off.
Here's our Gil Scott-Heron hands.
Oh,
yeah,
dude.
This little drum solo, like.
Oh my God. I mean, and it was an amazing drum solo. I mean, that was one of the best things about this episode for sure.
I liked how it mirrored a little bit of you heard Blackbird when Montrose was escaping. Like the intro to Blackbird is very similar to
Right.
Whitey's on the Moon.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, they do kind of start up and everything.
Was that on purpose?
100%
The dad and the son are like escaping, and so their songs are kind of.
I like that parallel.
Have the same feel.
I like that parallel a lot.
Maybe dad.
The maybe dad.
Well, it doesn't matter. He raised him. He's his dad.
Yeah, I would say so. So just before we kind of start getting into everything, just as a thing, if you want to get in, make sure that we take a look at whatever your comment or question that you might have or something like that. Send us a super chat, any dollar amount, and part of those proceeds are going to be going to the Milwaukee Bond Fund to help all the protesters that have been jailed in Kenosha, Wisconsin. More than a great cause. So it's like, so you get to make sure that we check out your theory, to check out your question, and you're doing good for a lot of people that are on the ground, trying to do a lot of good for a lot of other people. So anyway, with that said, let's get into our initial general thoughts about this episode. Draces, what did you think about this episode as a whole? What's it about? What's Whitey's on the Moon got going on?
Mostly I'm like, holy shit, we got a lot of information. Number one,
the
story like zoomed right forward. But I mean, I think one of the main themes that I took away was kind of what happens when you ignore or try to like push down family trauma or abuse or like secrets or like family legacies that you don't want to talk about. Very much like in 2020, like Black Lives Matter movement, it's like when you ignore and push down and push to the side really fucking important shit that's been going on and people have been screaming about forever, it's gonna come up, and it's gonna come up in ways that you do not like. And
right. I mean, like, not to vault forward to the it's a 2020 moment, but it kind of like
doing that.
No. But it kind of is just like if we would have possibly been able to fucking fly right and actually deal with this stuff, like in a constructive way. And I mean, and I think that I'm I think like kind of like the white patriarchy type of element of it. Like Colin Kaepernick was just trying to kneel down and kind of bring light to an issue. And we told him to be quiet and to not say shit. And now we're at this insane breaking point because we couldn't take like a little bit of constructive criticism of a very real problem and of a very real history. You know what I mean?
Also, even just like family stuff where it's like, oh, you don't want to talk about this possible love triangle. Well, it's gonna come up and it's gonna be a thing. Or the Braithwaites don't want to talk about they're the founder of their cults. You know, him abusing his slaves and raping the women who were like he had enslaved.
Right.
Well, something's gonna happen, and it's gonna bite you in the ass.
What was the thing they kept saying where he's famously nice to his employees, or what was that? Like, what was that line?
Yeah, or just like notoriously kind.
Notoriously kind, I think, is the exact term that they use.
He's like, having sex with them.
Oh my god!
Like,
yeah, I mean,
it made my skin crawl.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and again, we said that in our initial video reaction, where it's like that's kind of like that soft white revisionism that happens with like especially in the South, but it happens all over. I mean, it happens with like ex-presidents, like Morgan, you brought up, like George Washington and stuff like that. I mean, like that type of stuff is always like, again, like if we don't address it, then it's going to come kind of, and this episode kind of shows it is brought almost explosively to the forefront and will potentially bring like the whole structure down, of which that literally happens at the end of this fucking episode. I think that's very well said. I mean, I think that another thing in regards to the Braithwaites, because to your point, Morgan, and some people had said in the comments, I think we'll put this out to Vogulis right here. I think the plot could have easily been stretched. It was a full season of reveals wrapped up in an hour. That is not an unfair criticism.
No.
Yeah.
I would definitely say, if you had like say you'd come to us and you'd be like, hey, how long are they going to be in the house? I would have maybe said like 2 episodes.
I thought so too.
You know what I mean?
a lot more with the Braithwaites.
A lot more with the Braithwaites and stuff like that. I mean, and again, like it's a giant like mansion, spooky mansion built up like from like white supremacy. Like there's so many spooky things that you could do within that space, so many different places that they could have explored.
Yeah, that house looked like a white supremacy Hellraiser box as architecture.
Also
kind of sort of
like the Professor X's mansion though too. Like we mentioned that in our
we did, yes.
Don't besmirch the good name
Right.
of Sir
Oh
Patrick.
my God. Right. Absolutely. Oh God. Absolutely. Yeah. It's like you should.
No.
No. Like that's what Tick would say to Montrose. You should have raised me when you had the chance, Montrose. It's just like a very sad type of thing. But that, I always love to do the Professor X thing. But no, I think that that's very true. I think that was, if I had one hang up about the episode, I think in general, it would be at like the break, because not only are like we kind of also, along with the characters, kind of being gaslit by the spells and the house and just the general thing. Like it's happening to us in the same way that it's happening to the characters, even though I think that is how like good mystery storytelling kind of happens and stuff like that. I think that's just a good kind of way to have your audience kind of experience your story. I do think that it was just a fucking lot, and I do think that maybe even just one more, you could have even stretched it out so much that it ends with Christina leaving to the barn and she gives birth to baby Blinky, and you're just like, what the fuck? Cut to black, and then you kind of do the ceremony. You know what I'm saying? A little something. But I mean, it's not a knock. It's just I just remember and all the information is there, and that's a credit to the writing. But I do think that it was definitely, it just moved in such a breakneck. One other big thing that I think I thought was very apparent, that they kind of, not that they won't ever pick this up again, because because Christina is not dead, because she's absolutely coming back. I went back and I watched the trailer, and you can see the fucking silver coupe driving through what very much looks like Chicago. So she's coming back in some way.
Going back to River North to live in her find her rich husband.
River North, very, very famous kind of yuppie-ish part of town if you're not from Chicago. But another big thing, or at least one of the
Before we jump too far ahead of that, I think the fact that this episode has so much to it, I mean, we won't really know until we've seen the breadth of the entire show.
Absolutely.
But there's so much here.
Sure.
And it's like, we're complaining about that? I mean,
no.
I'm just saying, we're almost like, hey, whoa, slow down. Like, you didn't have to go this hard.
It's because I think it's because it's so rich, and it's because it's like if you were served up this amazing fucking filet mignon of a meal, but you were having it at an eating contest.
Yeah.
Like it's like you got to finish this in 45 seconds, otherwise you don't get to go on to the next fucking Price is Right challenge or whatever the fuck. I don't even know if they do that stuff on. Do they make you eat steaks on Price is Right, or they just
No, you're thinking Fear Factor.
Oh God, Fear Factor. Oh God, no. But another big thing that I thought was a big, large chunk of what made this that this episode tried to examine was the kind of like the grand white ambition that comes at the cost and or neglect of Black lives, Black history, Black stories.
Or like the exploitation of Black labor.
Exactly. I mean, like, and just like how within, like, I mean, that's kind of where the Gil Scott Heron, Whitey's on the moon, like a rat bit my sister Nell in her apartment last week while Whitey's on the moon. It's like it kind of, there was a I think a stand-up bit that I think it was David Cross did, where he was just like, where he was talking about like back when we were, kind of trying to get to Mars or whatever. And they're like, we got to go to Mars. And it's just like, we're going to put a man on Mars. And it's like, well, let's put a man in an apartment first. Like there's so many other things that
that poem film is about we don't have health insurance and you're sending money into space, and it's like that is exactly what's happening in 2020.
Yeah,
Like,
right, exactly.
hi,
And
Elon Musk, could you just like maybe work on universal health care?
I was thinking about Elon Musk the entire time when I was seeing Papa Braithwaite, like,
Yeah.
you know, like, I was like, oh yeah, this guy would tweet like masks are for bitches and stuff like that if he was around right now. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Because he'd have a magic spell to ward off the Rona.
that's true. Oh God,
So.
right? Probably. I mean, like, and the whole thing in which like it kind of in the service of this kind of grand vision of how like white patriarchal structures literally view themselves. We are the masters of the cosmos. We are going to go out and conquer, like, you know, like we're going to conquer space. We're going to conquer this space. It's kind of like that. It's like an extension of kind of the colonialist nature of like, certainly of like of the Western world. And man, I mean, like that was one thing that really kind of stuck out to me. That was a big part of, and how, like we said, if you don't address and or are usurped, that cookie can crumble very quickly. Like, you know what I mean? Like he spent all that time rebuilding that fucking house, and then all it took was one ring and Atticus to see Grandma Hannah, and then it's all fucking done for.
One grandma ghost, and then also like he had ignored his daughter and not really seen that she could fuck shit up.
Dude,
he
slept on her so hard. That's kind of like the Christina coup that we kind of have been talking about a little bit and shit. Which I thought
the Azula, the Cersei. If he had been like Azula's dad,
right,
she would be great.
Totally.
Well, not great because she would be really good at white supremacy. So maybe. Maybe
right.
it's good on him for neglecting her a little bit.
Maybe a little bit, right? Maybe a little bit. Well, I mean, I think that's a good kind of like fertile ground for our general thoughts and stuff like that. Now we're going to go on to our favorite scenes of the episode. And Dustin, you have picked out this next one, and I tend to agree with this pick very much. We're talking about our favorite scene of the episode. D, what do you got for us?
It's weird calling this my favorite scene
right, because it's so horrible.
It made me feel real gross.
Sure.
But there's the scene where they come back into the house and they're getting ready for for dinner, and they're basically having they're all having these hallucinogenic, and this is kind of where we get into like the sci-fi aspect of it.
Yes.
You don't really know what the spell is that each person is going to encounter, and we have a 3-part triptych where Uncle George ends up seeing his long-lost love, Dora. We have Letty and Tick having this snake dick scene. And then we have Tick seeing his, Korean woman.
What I assume to be like a possible love interest and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, like it. Yeah,
she was the alien. She was probably the woman on the phone.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah, I think, and it was funny. I remember I had kind of talked about the very opening scene, the kind of fantasy opening scene, war scene from the pilot, and I was like, oh, it's like a good sucker punch. And his love interest, Maggie Chung, is in Sucker Punch.
Oh, wow.
She's actually in the movie. You know what I mean? So she gets another crack at it, only 100,000 times more interesting than anything Zack Snyder could possibly produce. Yeah. But
the point of that scene and the part of it that really hit so hard is the idea of these little portals, of these like kind of two-way mirrors that all of these, eyes wide shut motherfuckers are like watching them, with the white gaze.
Yeah.
And it's just a bunch of like creepy white people in tuxedos watching these kind of nightmare scenarios play out with like very little expression on their faces.
Oh yeah, no, they're just having a whine about it. Just and again, it's like it's this weird kind of weirdly procedural, like it's like, let's see how they do under pressure type of thing. Like, I mean, is that
I took it even grosser, where it was just like, oh, this is just the evening's entertainment. Like it's a mixtape. Like it was like a cocktail music. We're gonna have
nightmare mixtape.
Yeah, just like stare at are like.
Here's your amuse bouche, before we serve you Tony Goldwyn's liver.
So God.
Here you go.
Right? That like
And
yeah.
they didn't season that.
Looks like meat is back on the menu, boys.
Oh my God, liver's back on the menu, boys. No, yeah, I mean, like, and I think there was a lot of very interesting things that were going on in all three of those scenes. Very kind of like, I think like kind of the most like the two more visceral runs had to do with Letty and Tick, like obviously
because like Uncle George knew it was a dream. And
yeah.
he was enjoying it until he had to say, I know you're not real. So if he saw them watching, I feel like he'd be chill with it because he's like kind of had a handle on it.
Yeah.
But like Tick was in a whole nother, like he didn't even think of it as reality. He was somewhere else.
No.
Letty is like spilling her
beans. She's spilling her beans about it.
Childhood trauma and her like longing for Tick. And that really makes me want to vomit when I think of those like cocktail party people just drinking wine and staring at that. That made me. I just
having a white wine, having a white wine spritzer about like Letty's like whole thing. Yeah, it's like they're like just feasting on like this kind of this like despair porn that they're kind of putting, or they're trying to induce with everybody because Tick's whole thing, insofar as it being played possibly, we think, by Maggie Cheung. It is played by Maggie Cheung, but like the fact that she's a romantic interest and that they're fighting, like she's literally trying to kill him. Like I just thought that was very interesting. And that he's trying to like, is that like, it's like, oh man, you got to go back to Rihanna. We found love in a hopeless place. Like to find somebody that you love and care about but that is viscerally connected to a place that holds so much pain and trauma for you as a Korean War veteran. You know what I mean? Like I think that that was a tough thing, and I think the writing on the wall with Letty was pretty apparent.
And actually, I see Chance kind of brings up something in the chat on YouTube, which I felt as well. The moment when they all kind of emerge into the hallway, and Letty is just damaged.
Yep.
And she looks across and she sees Tick, and having gone through that, I think she has to process the idea that wasn't actually Tick. But it's hard for her to even like look at him. You can just see the acting was superb.
Totally.
I mean, imagine having done all that and then to live through it, and then will she ever have those moments of catharsis ever again, or is she just gonna like equate that traumatic moment
opening up to,
or will she be able to? Would you like
snake?
Right, like Dustin, like D. If you and I were talking and having a nice heart to heart, and then a snake jumped out of your pants and tried to bite me in the face, I'd have a hard time getting close to you again, bud. Like, I mean, like, you know what I mean? And so that's what I think. That's what I think will be interesting.
Sounds like a wedding night.
Right.
We got over it. It's fine.
We got over it. It's all good. No, but I think that.
You know what? Kudos on the music director for not doing that song.
I mean,
Jesus.
It's in a Gotta Be, but I mean, like, it could have been.
No, they could just pipe in the Simpsons version.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, actually, that kind of that brings us to our episode MVP that we have of the episode. And Morgan, you brought this up, so I'm going to let you kind of take it away as far as like who you think pulled their weight as far as their salary, as far as what they were contracted. They fucking knocked it out of the park. Who are you thinking as far as your episode MVP?
Well, I was thinking, I mean, it was last week, and then hit it out of the park this week is Liza Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
She is the music supervisor, so she chose all the songs. So it was her choice to go from like Blackbird into Marilyn Manson,
which is like, I gotta say,
I love that
ballsy choice. And again, like, it's so hard. I mean, like, Dustin, you're a DJ, and I've DJed like here and there, and like sometimes it's like when you're taking a gamble on a transition that you're like, is this gonna work? And the fact, and that's like an aim small, miss small type of a situation, and that to go from those two things and to kind of have them make sense and work. and to kind of almost be not even just like, because they worked well within the flow of the scene, but it also was just like tonally totally made sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're taking some really big risks with their soundtrack where it's not period specific.
Right.
It's also not even like genre specific, where we have these like classic iconic, like, you know, black jazz infallibles. We have, you know, these Nina Simone, you know, Gil
rhythm and blues is all over this thing, you know, all that stuff.
In the first episode, you know, was super heavy on like that, like old blues, and then to include like a newer song like River by, you know, Leon Bridges, which is, you know, I'll never be able to. I've played that song at weddings, and I don't know if I ever can again.
Oh yeah, it's too.
You're gonna have an Uncle George single tear going and shit like that when you play.
Was hard.
Yeah.
And everyone will look like Montrose in that scene.
Yeah,
where he's
just
staring off.
That was I mean, that was a problem. Oh, and also that was, I remember if you actually get a chance, there was at Comic-Con, they did like the Comic-Con at home thing, and they had like a good portion of the cast like on like this, you know, the big kind of Zoom call or whatever. But you can tell that they kind of edit those and kind of tighten them up, because it was actually a lot of fun to watch, especially if you're into the show. Definitely look it up. But there was apparently Michael K. Williams said that was everybody's first scene. That was everybody's first day.
Oh my
ever
gosh.
was doing Courtney's death, which is like just kind of shows you like the perils of like production sometimes, where it's just like, this is just because of like, you know, the place where we want to shoot it is this way, and like, and we have all four of you, and like we need to nail this, and we need to spend most of the day getting it and stuff, but like and then you have to go back and you have to kind of like redo the whole relationship. Like it just kind of speaks to like how kind of weirdly superhuman good actors can be.
That's crazy.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean,
watching that and watching like just the little subtle acting choices, you know, by Journey and Tick, you know, where you're like, they just like, they didn't even say anything.
Yeah.
They just kind of looked at one another, and you know, just like that feeling of like, wait, I know what you mean, and it was just really a beautiful breakdown.
100%. Where do we have Shatara Brookhart? I wanted to pull this up because I think that this is a good point. Great music, very interesting. I think they're using the lyrics more. They're letting the lyrics and the content kind of, rather than the genre, guide them. And I think that that's dead on. I think that you know, like,
well, we watch with the subtitles so we don't miss anything, and the lyrics they always are,
they're right there,
spot on. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that that's definitely something. That's definitely what they got going in. Well, now that we got like the episode MVP, we got to have the low key MVP. And this was one that I
want to call her low key, but
not low key, but like maybe like the runner up or just, well, certainly like the low key of the scene that she was in.
Yeah.
And like, you know what I mean? Like, and who are we gonna throw that out to?
Graham.
Hannah Graham. Yeah. Hannah Graham.
Ran through a burning house, pregnant, only to come back as a pregnant ghost. She's been carrying that baby. I
know. It was just such an amazing scene too, where it's just like, and then she kind of like appears for just a minute while was that hair growing on Tick's hand?
No, was that like black smoke, right?
Was that black smoke? I don't know. I just remember it had like a wispy thing. I think
it's something Christina put in that ring.
Oh,
to help him seek maybe ancestors or 100%, something. And then like Hannah jumps in and is like, all right, we're getting out of here. We're turning all these white people into ash. It's gonna be fucking awesome. She's like, hey, you ever see a interview with a vampire? Watch this.
Right. I love that. No, I mean, like, and it was very powerful. Like, kind of like her thrust like forward, like for her own freedom and stuff like that. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about as far as like the black stories being lost, and the fact that like Tick has kind of never really known this about his own history and the history of his family, and like how it's within some of the kind of miraculous courage and the strength of those family stories and those narratives that will help you lead you through the tough times and stuff like that. And that was kind of a lovely kind of, I think, very visual representation.
Right. And when Chick, asks Uncle George, when they're out in the field, and Uncle George stops. He's like, "Oh, I just remembered something your mom told me." And he's like, "Why did she tell you that?" And
yes,
and that
right.
scene, that spot where he remembers that is also the same spot where they pick up Montrose later on in the episode. So it's a kind of a dual scene.
Oh,
yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was a really it was a powerful moment, and then again, like also set to Gil Scott Heron. So again, it's like one of those awesome. It's just like the awesome ways that this show is kind of able to sort of have like a kind of a tug of war with your brain as far as just this like, and because we talked about how it's like this show's like can be like a sensory overload, but that was one where it was one in like the best way. You know what I mean? That, and you get to blow up like a house built by slaves, and you get to fucking completely dust an entire room of fucking like of pointy of like white people in robes pretty much every time are just making like horrible amounts of trouble.
They're not up to anything good. Especially if they're rich ones.
Especially if
Give them a bunch of money and some robes, like white people, they go nuts.
Yeah, dude, absolutely.
Don't let them do it.
Yeah, I think that that's fair, and I think that's definitely something that I think that most people can completely can get behind. So, obviously, I think that we talked about this at length, like last episode, and we kind of did it in our reaction video, but like the Easter egg type of game, like finding like the favorite Easter egg or the Easter egg that we think spoke the most to us, that's like what kind of the homework's for. That's what podcasts are for. That's what, like message boards are for and stuff like that. And I remember you guys had picked out a couple of pretty interesting Easter eggs that I thought were really cool. And I was wondering what you guys had as far as those.
It's kind of funny. I've been out of college for a very long time, and I always spent as much time as I would have spent like researching a college like thesis paper as I did like dissecting this movie and like reading articles. And then I was like, oh, okay, what's the significance of that book? And then what's this author? I was just like, all right, I'm gonna go like 7 layers deeper on every little weird thing, because
why not?
The writers of the show did that work.
Right, exactly. And again, like that was kind of, and not to keep kind of making parallels to Watchmen, but there were, insofar as like in Watchmen's run in that season that aired last year, there was a tremendous amount of work put into like kind of lacing and seasoning this lovely meal that we've kind of been sitting down and eating every week on Sundays. And we're just like, oh, what is it? It's like, is that like a little bit of rosemary? Like what, and that's kind of what the Easter eggs sort of are for people. That it's like, I do think that it's a good thing when the show can kind of just exist on its own, like by its own merits, as far as like, are you invested in the characters? Are you propelled by the story, et cetera, so forth? But all that other stuff is there waiting for you if you want it. So what, did you guys have a couple of picks as far as that goes?
Well, mine, I'd have to talk to the costumer to be like real, but I mean, just in my head, it's not so much an Easter egg as like a detail. That
sure.
I noticed they dressed Christina she was always wearing white this episode. Mm-hmm. And her whole storyline this episode is her being like absolutely annoyed that because Atticus was born a man, he can just waltz in and actually have all this power and like pull. Like he can tell an entire room of like the cultist people to leave.
Sure.
Because he's a man, and she has been like studying her whole life, and she can't even come to dinner. And
right.
It just
she can rattle off those fucking those biblical verses like on the fly. You know what I mean?
She knows all their bylaws. She knows how the table setting goes. She knows what part of the liver you're supposed to serve to your guests.
Right.
Right. But when I see a white woman wearing white, I think of like the suffragettes, because that was famously their parade was they're all gonna wear white and march. But that parade was famously a racist parade because they didn't want to alienate the Southern white women, so they were going to make the Black suffragettes like march at the back. And this is like a whole thing because the suffragettes started, they would work with like Sojourner Truth, and they worked with Frederick Douglass. But when black men, it looked like black men did get the vote, even though there's a bunch of reasons why they didn't really have the vote.
Right.
That's when the white suffragettes got a hair up their ass. And it just shows like white female allyship. It's to a point to where when we work together, we have the common goal. But if for some reason our goals split off, see ya, you're on your own. So you see Christina helping Atticus survive to a point.
Right.
But also, I'm not going to help your uncle live. See ya, fuck off.
Yeah.
And she had all that magic and power and shit.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like she could have saved Uncle George.
Well, right.
Or maybe not, but I don't know. But like, she just didn't care. Like, she had her own. She just had her own goals, and it's like, oh, if Atticus's goals line up with my goals, that's cool, and I'm gonna help him out. I'm an ally. I'm a feminist.
I'm a good person.
Remember when I saved you on the road last episode? Remember when I stopped, those monsters eating you, even though I'm in charge of the monsters?
Yeah, and I don't think Christina sees herself as a racist woman. And this is today, like it comes in today, like white women. Oh, I'm not racist. I just like law and order. I'm not racist. I just don't care about politics.
Well, they should, as long as they don't riot, like then, you know what I mean? Like it's like unwilling to, like if there's a single bit of property, like that's kind of either put to torch or broken in any way, that will foul up an entire movement. Whereas when you look at like, I don't know, say like we have like an epidemic of violence within police, within police departments across the country, we need to like make sure that we only look at those bad apples first. You know what I mean? Before like, you know what I mean? Like where it's that kind of like weird, kind of like cherry picking of it.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't know. I was like thinking, like she is so much like the suffragettes. So I'm like, that's why she's wearing white. But I could have totally made that up in my head. But that was
I mean, like I would definitely take a kind of like a home cooked, whether or not we can confirm or disconfirm. I'll take that because I think that's a really, I think that's a lovely flourish mode. So I think that's a great point to bring up for sure. Yeah. Did anybody else have any other ones?
There's obviously a lot.
A lot.
I was really focused on the books.
Sure.
They were, because I knew that there had to be some.
All that was it. Wait, hold on. Was it all that shelving that you saw?
Give me those shelves.
Give me the built-in shelving. Absolutely. Yeah.
But and actually, in going back, there's some stuff that I kind of missed, the parallels that all kind of tied in between the two episodes, where George, when they go to the stone dungeon, and when they're trying to find Montrose, he's like, Count of Monte Cristo, and that's how they figure out what he had done.
Right.
And in the first episode, when Tick comes home and he goes to find Montrose, he finds like multiple copies of the Count of Monte Cristo. And they were copies that belonged to Montrose. And in the books, he finds a picture of his family, which had a photo of Dora.
Interesting.
We also then see that same photo of Dora is like that same kind of pose is one that was in George's wallet in episode 1, which I totally missed the first time watching it.
Oh, no shit. Okay.
So like, and that's like pretty rad. And we're gonna talk a little bit about like the Lovecraft connection in a moment for one of the other books. So there's just a ton that kind of like weaves in and out with, like, they mentioned that, a bunch of different times. And then, the Count of Monte Cristo, obviously very famously written by a French black man, like Alexander Dumas. And like, a lot of people don't realize that. And so it's just really cool that they're able to kind of bring that stuff in.
Sure.
And then, we also see, there's a couple things. Somebody mentioned in the comments, the painting in Letty's room being kind of a key.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
Also, we see the one with Tick, which has the names of the founders of the Sons of Adam, which we have the Braithwaite House. And then we also have Horatio Winthrop, who I think is going to be our big bad through the rest of the season.
You think so?
I think the Braithwaites I mean, maybe we're going to see the different Sons of Adam's like kind of
Sure.
factions.
Right.
I think we're going to meet Horatio soon. That's my prediction.
That was another thing that we were saying was that like this is apparently like they were at very again like they basically they kind of out and out said it where it's like we're like the Klan but with money. Yeah. Essentially, and so there are
because we're the Klan but not poor.
Right, exactly, and so like and say like there are other chapters around the country, the world, etc., so forth. That maybe that would be a conduit. Maybe that would be a place where they would run into like Horatio Winthrop. Maybe that would be it. You know what I mean? Like I think it'll be interesting to see like if that stuff comes up. Yeah, I mean,
there was, one last thing on the costuming that we kind of pulled together.
Oh, so I remember when I got all excited last week because there was that fez from the store that I used to work at.
Oh, sure.
I don't know if anybody wasn't here last week. I worked at a store called Hollywood Mirror, and they filmed the first episode of Lovecraft Country right around the corner. The scenes of like the block party and then the bar, the L&L. So they had actually come into. We were like a really big used clothing store. They came in and bought so much stuff. They bought like thousands of dollars of like clothing from our store.
Right.
And I kept looking for like things that I would recognize, and there was a fez that I recognized, and lo and behold, it actually like was a really important plot point, which I'm like interested to know if
this guy right here
like if they saw that in our store and was like, wait, that's actually the Masons are like a speech leader, we should have him wear this hat, which makes me like that's serendipity.
That's like, pretty crazy.
That's crazy to think about, that they were like, because I remember that hat. People used to always like to put it on and take pictures.
But never buy it.
And I would get annoyed. And I'd be like,
right?
Don't you dare wreck that hat.
Well, and then George, talks about when they're trying to kind of stall for time in the dinner scene where he gets up and he's like, I know a little something about fraternal organizations. And he starts talking about the Prince Hall Freemasons. And so, which, that hat is actually like a Shriner and Freemason hat.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a big thing in the book, too. So, like, it's not like
that's pretty wild. And so
found the hat, let's write around it. No, like, that's from the book.
I imagine that was probably, like, when people kind of get on the, within production stuff like that, they're like, see if you can find any of this stuff like out on the street and everything, like let's pick it up. It's one less thing that we have to like pay someone to make ourselves, which I'm assuming is like more expensive than actually buying it. Maybe not entirely sure, but but also just like, wouldn't that would be a fun fucking job? You're like a hunter for like, I mean, like that's what any of the friends that I've had that have been production designers and stuff like that, and like costume designers, like that can be some of the most fun stuff. It's like finding the thing. It's like, oh no, wait, this is great. We need this in the show. Just before we get up, we're gonna save this one, but shout out to CJ. Thank you so much for the super chat. We will address that a little more at length.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
I have to like make amends for my white feminist.
Yeah, right. Oh, totally. Right. I mean, I remember that was a big thing. Like,
I try to keep them in check.
Yeah, just a little. Man, yeah. Well, no, I mean, like you gotta talk about it, be about it. It's kind of like
spank them a little now and
again. Just a little bit, and it's further. And this is one of the things we're spanking in that regard is for their own good. In that. So anyway, we another one that we've been doing every week that we come in is like we try to take a parallel from the show and be like, man, that's so 2020, depressingly so. Oh my God! By the way, I mean, like we've been getting into some dark stuff. Maybe we're just kind of like used to it. But do we want a little visit, our little happy place, maybe?
It might be a good idea because I'm gonna go in for a second.
You're gonna go in for a second. Do you want me to save it? Do you want me to save it? I mean,
let's get into Moose Boosh.
Let's get one out of the way.
One out of the way, just in case. And also
dopamine going.
And also just a shout out for everybody who wasn't here for our live stream. Every time we do get really heavy, every time we do kind of get into some, because obviously that's one of the great things about the show is that it takes like a pretty frank, kind of stark look through this awesome world at like some really dark and depressing not depressed. Because I think that sometimes this is kind of the invigorating part. It's just the fact that we have to fucking actually deal with it. You know what I mean? And so one of the things, like our happy place are four-armed monsters punching through and ripping off the heads of racist cops. So if we ever need to go to our happy place, y'all just shout it out. It's Blinky time, y'all. So anytime.
I feel so bad at the beginning when they said they didn't remember. And I'm like, oh, but I mean, you at least got to forget the nightmare part of it, but you also forgot the part where the cop got his head ripped off.
Right. Like, which just like, no, that's one of those ones, like, as soon as they were kind of done, because that's the other thing is like, we kind of didn't get to hear that because they immediately forgot it. And that also kind of explains like why they were in such a daze, kind of like walking up to the house, like towards the end of episode 1. But like, it'd be one of those things like where you expect, like they're gonna have like that scene at the end of Pineapple Express where they just talk about the shit that went down in the previous hour. It's like, yeah. And remember when that fucking like million-eyed monster that kind of looked like Venom punched a fucking hole through the chest of the cop and then bit his head off, but then his nervous system seized up and he shot and blew the other cop's head off. Crazy, dude. You know what I mean? Like,
Blinky might have it for the best kill of the season.
I
think it's gonna take a lot to like. I mean,
no.
Hannah's kill was pretty good.
Well, that was, but I mean, as far as just that, I mean, yeah. What do you think? Do you think? Okay, yay or nay? They're gonna top it.
They'll top it.
You think so?
At the end of this season, we're gonna have to do like a vote.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, like a horror
like,
movie, like best
who
kill.
had the best kill? Who had the best kill? Right now in the running, Hannah and Blinky.
Hannah and Blinky. I think I can get down with that.
You could have like a
also
March
Samuel
Madness.
Braithwaite.
Oh.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry.
No, so
okay,
like
we're gonna say on-screen kills, right?
Okay.
There you go.
Also, I don't really want to give him anything.
Yeah, he
no,
doesn't get things.
that shit. No way. But like, yeah. So basically the other thing. So now we're gonna talk about That's So 2020, and Dustin, you had a pretty interesting selection. Then I had like a little bit of info, kind of on the back of that we can talk about. So anyway, yeah, go ahead and take that away for you, Dustin.
So there's a scene where they go into the town and they run into a woman named Dell, who's basically, I'm assuming they ask her if she's the sheriff, but she's like, the female jailer, so to speak. You might recognize her. It's an actress named Jamie Neumann, who's in The Deuce, Jessica Jones, Nosferatu.
Right.
So we see her handling the dogs. And then she goes in this whole, not so veiled.
Not quite so subtle, was it?
Yeah. She starts talking about,
before we meet her, we hear her.
Yeah, right.
So we start talking about the pesky black bears, and in how she's just basically kind of correlating them, to obviously to our main people,
to our heroes,
Tick and George and Letty, and so there's this whole thing with dog whistles. And so I kind of went in and was trying to like kind of unpack a lot about. We've been hearing a lot about it in 2020. With the Republican dog whistles happening, and a lot of people are kind of saying that
stopped using dog whistles, but
the idea that it started off being a dog whistle because because it was only being heard by certain people. So the idea of doing racist hand gestures like in photos kind of in the background. Yeah.
Or like suburban housewives, you're going to be safe.
Mm-hmm. So they're using coded language, being the thing that only the people that know what it is are hearing this dog whistle. I keep using that in quotes because it's the idea of like, we're only speaking to these people, but it's like, oh, I'm not saying anything bad. I'm talking about bears.
Right.
What do you mean?
No, what do you mean? Like, I just said thug. Like, that just means a bad person. Like,
right, exactly. No, I don't care if they're black, white, purple, polka dot, whatever.
They love that one.
Yeah, they love that one. It's like, it doesn't matter.
Purple polka dot people.
Purple polka dot thugs that we keep hearing about and stuff like that,
What's crazy to me is that, so like the modern, there was like hunting whistles, like all throughout use of like, in like the 1800s or whatever, but like the actual like dog whistle itself, the one used for hunting, like the one that actually is only heard by hunting dogs, was designed by a guy named Francis Galton, who was the cousin of Charles Darwin. And
Jesus.
but
Yeah.
that's not his like most lasting thing.
Right.
He was really big, and the whole reason he invented the dog whistle and how he tested dog whistles because he was really big about eugenics. And so he learned about this like science of like racial improvement and racial differences, and he was all about this idea that like people who are well born should only breed with other well-borns. And he was saying essentially that even a well-educated black person would never be as good as an Anglo-Saxon person. And so it's still in use all throughout the Jim Crow South, and when they're using like canine police. So we're seeing a lot of like those racist tropes, and we see it in episode 1.
And that's insane that the guy that was like big into eugenics also invented like a dog whistle, which is like has a practical use,
Right.
but is later used as like a euphemism for coded language. Like that's what?
Yeah. And also
saying this guy like is prolific in his bullshit.
Yeah, and when slaves would escape, they would send the dogs after them. And when we see in episode 1, when they drive past the firehouse and there's the barking dogs and it slows down. So there's just a lot there. Just about like people using, the dogs to hunt their slaves.
Yeah. I mean, and that was kind of like, and that was like the kind of the big thing. And the fact that like like the hounds very specifically like were used as obviously just like a huge sign of oppression, like you said. And like, and the fact that like, essentially that's like how policing departments were formed in a lot of the South, was to police this population of human beings that were
a lot of like predominantly black neighborhoods would complain about there being an overabundant use of canine patrols in their neighborhood.
Absolutely.
And there's so many people.
Right. And we're gonna need Blinky after this one because it was like upon all of the events that happened in Ferguson in 2014, 2015, I think it was 2014, and everything that kind of happened, they like the Department of Justice at the time had done like a big study on just like policing in that area and stuff like that. And they kind of started to look into the canine units and everything, and how most of the time the canine, or no, literally every single time the canine units were used, they were not used in a way to apprehend the suspect, because the suspect was usually already cornered or in a car or something like that. They were mostly used as like an intimidation or a punishment tactic. And they went back in the records, and from all accounts that they could tell, from around like between 1995, 96 and 2014, there was not a single usage of like a canine attack that wasn't on a person of color in Ferguson, Missouri. Like, and just so people know that like when we talk about that, so 2020, and that's like the things that they introduced into this show, it is because it's very real, it's very visceral, and it's something that we still have to deal with and dismantle yesterday, 10 years ago, 50 years ago, you know what I mean? Like, and so this is still something that's very, very living and still very breathing. And I mean, like it was just one of those. I remember like when I came upon that, I think it was there's a really great podcast called Behind the Bastards, and but they did like a special kind of like 4-part sort of like mini series about policing in the United States and like the history and everything like that. And it's something that you want to check out. But I mean, like, and with that, do we need them?
All that from like a lady with a dog whistle who's
it's all packed in.
Who only speaks in dog whistles.
Who only speaks in.
She only speaks in dog whistles.
Oh, right. And then it's like, and so.
I do like her name's Dell, and Letitia fucking Lewis was like, dude, you're getting a shovel to the head.
That was, I mean, like, I remember that I think that might have been, that was definitely not quite on the level of like a Blinky, you know what I mean?
But it was just a nice.
I love she was kind of, I got the car.
Right. No, I love her saying. I wouldn't have minded if she would have put one more. But I mean, like, I think that we all could have, especially after hearing all that, we would have much preferred if, Christina had blown the whistle. That would have been cool. I could use what I'm telling you right now. I mean, like, I know that things can kind of get overused and stuff like that, as I'm demonstrating right now. But God damn it, if it works, it works.
It always makes me smile. He had it coming. He had it coming.
Totally.
He only had himself to blame.
Oh my God, absolutely.
Sorry, this is the time where I sing show tunes.
The show tunes. There you go. All right, well, shit.
I have outed myself as a theater nerd.
Oh my God, out and about. So another thing that we've kind of been doing week to week is we take a look at the which is what we call the Lovecraft connection. If there was like a scene or a detail or something like that that connects Lovecraft to this material, and I think that sometimes they can be very specific, sometimes they can be very broad, you know what I mean, like, because I think that again, like, there's a bunch of like kind of butthurt like Lovecraft nerds that are upset that we're not like that it's not like this completely like Revenant type of like adaptation of his work. Is kind of taking the iconography and kind of making this really cool mixtape out of it.
People came in and took what they liked and claimed it as their own.
Hey, there is a couple in Des Moines, Iowa that is working on an acoustic cover of WAP right now. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, it's very much in the works. But yeah, so like I was gonna say, like, as far as like a Lovecraft connection, D, you had a couple of interesting things. I wanted to cue you up on that. Yeah. So what was that for yours?
Going back to the whole, books and books being very important to this. Obviously, Lovecraft being a writer. So when George finds the secret library, there he is. We didn't even plan this. That's just really well timed. So in order to get to the secret library, he pulls back the book. Which is The House on the Borderland. And man, I love me a secret bookshelf that opens up to like a secret passageway.
100%.
I would love to own a house with a secret passageway.
Oh God.
But that book came out in 1908, and it was by a guy named William Hope Hodgson.
Okay.
And so Lovecraft himself encountered the book in like the 30s, and it basically informed his use of like science fiction and how to do these kind of like hallucinatory, like scientific novels. And so there's a scene in which George is telling Dora what has happened to them in this house. And that book is exactly what has happened to them in that house. It's a hallucinatory account of a recluse's stay at a remote house.
Oh, shit.
With other worldly dimensions and supernatural creatures.
Yeah.
Which is literally what's happening.
And that's kind of where he got a hold of that, and he was able to kind of start spitting some knowledge at that dinner. It's what kept him, I think it's what kept him kind of grounded through his trip. Right? And then
and Atticus was able to get enough Morse code out to say wizards.
Yes.
So he had that. He had the book. He had that.
Yeah.
I think he.
Yeah.
I mean, and
also,
again,
I heard some rumblings of the fact that online that where it's like because he was so close to his own death that he was a little bit better at dealing with a ghost or a ghostly visit or the other side or the other world, because for some reason he knew.
Right.
He even said, like, I mean, I know the book ends with the house crumbling, but it almost felt like, oh, he predicted the house crumbling on both their heads.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So, I mean, that was a really good catch. I mean, like, and again, that's another one where that's one that I totally wouldn't have. I love that speaks to kind of your, like, I think honestly your strength, Dustin, is as just like a person who is like very detail oriented, and like, I got to find out what the fuck that book's all about, man. And I'm glad that you did, because now I'm gonna take it and pass it off as my own knowledge when I talked about
Chekhov's book, you know. You don't zoom in on a book and make it readable,
right?
If you can't, I mean, it's like if there's a phone number, I'm calling it.
Oh, God, that's
Yeah.
right.
We've learned this about shows. You don't show something if it doesn't have a payoff.
Even though I am totally that dude, because I remember on one of our Avatar reactions, we also do reactions for Avatar: The Last Airbender. But like I think I did one where we do, because we're from the Midwest and we're East Coasters, we keep pronouncing a character's name whose name is Appa, but we kind of keep calling him Appa. And I remember and just as like a thing because I think we said it like 7 or 8 times in a row, and I remember I put down, if you guys have any complaints or anything like that, you can email me at something like eatmyfathersballs@gmail.com or something like that or whatever. And people were just like, yo, I'm gonna try to email this thing and see what's up. But I'm just like, and I totally didn't make that account, but it would have been funny. It would have been funny if I had.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like insofar as like the Lovecraft connection, I mean, like obviously, other than some of the big ones, I think it's a broader one that he had, and it especially kind of shows up definitely within Papa Braithwaite, within the head. What was the name of the guy from what was it from Scandal?
Tony Goldwyn.
Tony Goldwyn. Yeah, okay.
That's the actor's name.
The actor's name. Yeah, like whoever the head Braithwaite.
Wait, scroll down. You have it written down.
Something like that. But yeah,
Samuel Braithwaite.
Samuel. Okay, like his whole deal. Like he kind of seemed to me, or he struck me as
Titus was
the guy. He was
the main one, the founder.
Yeah.
Samuel was Christina's dad. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the guy from he was Vigo the Carpathian from Ghostbusters 2, like that was in the painting on the wall there.
Do you think that guy has like 2 paintings? Is it really that actor?
No, it's not that actor. I'm just no. It's no. But
I was like, wait, does that actor have both?
It just reminded me of like this ominous like old white dude.
He was
like,
on a throne of skulls.
Right? Yeah, like doing like a Kubrick stare through his eyebrows and shit. But like no, but I do think that he was kind of Samuel Braithwaite was very emblematic of a thing about Lovecraft that once you kind of start to look into everything that he was about, like in and of the time and stuff, and his whole fascination with like, he had a very kind of like visceral kind of fascination with like inordinate and like appalling horrors that would drive you mad. Mm-hmm. But then in his real life, he, his kind of vision or like a sign of what kind of signified him as disorder was for people of color and like race mixing, bloodline purity. Very famously wrote about Hitler in the early 30s, which just like, I think that he's what did he say? He goes like, he doesn't have any style, but damn it, I like the boy. Was like literally what he said.
He's onto something.
You think he's onto something?
He's going somewhere. That
right.
guy.
Oh my god. And so that whole and like those are the things that he seemed very. He had a proclivity for things that were kind of like upend the natural order of things, and I think that they infused a lot of that into Sam Britt, because that was his whole thing where I'm gonna set everything right and stuff like that, and all that fucking type of shit. So like I thought that was definitely like a pretty direct like connection to Lovecraft that I thought was definitely telling at least to me for like a lot of different reasons. So we're coming up on, we got to think about next week because we got some
mysteries and questions.
We got 8 more episodes of the show. It looks like they make it back to Chicago. It looks like that's where they're going, and it seems like they're going to be dealing with like a lot of different things insofar as like property like stuff and redlining and everything is going to be interesting. But we wanted to talk about, there were definitely some revelations within this episode that I think are going to reverberate throughout the next episode and probably the whole show. And that kind of has to do with, and the clue that we got in for that was the scene on the bed between Montrose and Uncle George. And I remember you had pointed that out, Morgan, and I just wondered if you wanted to expound upon that a little bit.
I mean, I know the big shocker is the revelation of Atticus could be Uncle George's son or Montrose's son, and like the love triangle. Like that was like the big shocker. But I was like watching it, and really am getting a hint that they might be hinting at Montrose's queerness, maybe, because that whole cheering on the baseball players seems so bizarre to me. Like, why would his father be so upset at him cheering on the black baseball players? Also, Uncle George makes a point of saying, loving that much isn't wrong. He was beating the love out of you. Don't be scared of that love that you love so much as a boy. Don't
Interesting.
be scared of it.
Interesting.
And also the bar that Montrose frequents, we know at least the bartender is a gay man or at least a queer man.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm just wondering, or I'm just like thinking just because he played Omar, he always has to play a queer character.
I was gonna say, I was gonna say, like, it's
am
like,
I reading into it too much? But like, why would his dad be upset that he's cheering on baseball players, which is like,
it did seem weird.
Seems like a fine like pastime for a boy, a
I think
red-blooded American boy. You love baseball.
I think the only thing that I can maybe think to counter it, and not that I don't think that this is a valid read and stuff like that, and also, I mean, like, Michael K. Williams just came up, and I mean, if that was, it's like, you guys know I can knock it out of the park. You know what I mean? Like, you guys know I can rep this shit. Like, it's like, yeah, I mean, especially with Omar. But the only thing that I can maybe think of was the fact that it did seem like Montrose was very restrictive on Tick's kind of on his vision for like what like the way that Tick kind of like his mind would be formed, and because remember, like, when he said, like, he used to get mad at me for reading, all of this like all of this like kind of rag stock like sci-fi trash. I should read the classics. Was he like don't fucking waste with your pie in the sky, like, type of like sports delusions or whatever it is?
Yeah, that could also be it.
That's just the one thing. But I think that I think it's interesting. It's interesting either way. But yeah, that would, and it's not even a counter, but it would just be like one other way in which they would kind of take it, in which like
this family, we read literature and literature only.
We read literature. Well, it was like, I think it was one of those things where it's like, of the two brothers, it was kind of like, whereas Uncle George was kind of trying to figure out a way to kind of like accepting the world as it was and stuff, and trying to like navigate it safely, like within it, you know what I mean? Play by its rules. And maybe Montrose was just like, no, you need to be like, maybe you have to be like the most exceptional version of yourself that you can possibly be, in order to make it, or to
politics,
something. I don't know that I don't think that's necessary. It doesn't negate it, but that was just one thing that I thought of or whatever. But I think that's a good point though, for sure. Well, I mean, like, that one.
There was that, and then I think the only other like a big question is the whole Christina William. Is that Williams' his name?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Are they the same person?
Yeah.
Is William actually the horse? I have a theory that William's the horse.
William's the horse?
If William is Christine, I don't know. He just had a horse.
Are we going back to Arya's horse again?
He has a horse
we're gonna find out that he's like a horse, like centaur mer person. He
had a horsey nature, and I was like, he could be that white horse.
I will say, I mean, like, because a lot of people pointed this out to us, in which like the fact that they never were ever in the same room together ever, and they are remarkably like. Their hair is almost exactly the same. This color, their eyes is almost exactly the same. Mm-hmm. They have like this kind of weird, disaffected kind of Stepford Wives. Him a little bit less so. Maybe she's just kind of getting used to it. Maybe she hasn't quite broken in like a baseball mitt or something like that. I don't know.
If it is Christina is she is in love with Letitia fucking Lewis, because. You notice William looks Letitia like he's about to eat her in every scene. I caught his eye like on my rewatch. I caught him staring at her ass. I mean, but he's also just like a red-blooded human being with legs and arms. You know what I mean? Like he's just like, we're just like, I think we all sort of look at those eyes though in those scenes. mean, do you watch those eyes? William, he's trying it.
It's hard to meet those eyes
Looking
because
at
they're
her like a whole snack.
it's hard. Well, it's hard to it's hard to not look at those eyes because they're just so saucer-like and weird. You know what I mean? Like this guy, he looks like fucking ET after he found out that like like after you scared him with some Reese's Pieces, just like giant fucking saucer-like eyes and shit. Yeah, I think that'll be an interesting look at. I don't think that they're going to be back just yet. I think that they're going to kind of. I think that once they get back to Chicago and once they kind of try to resituate themselves, I think that then it's going to be like maybe 1 or 2 episodes. But then again, I thought that they were going to be in the fucking mansion for 1 or 2 episodes. Right. So I mean,
I've been reading the book, so I kind of knew. Well, I thought they were going to take the first story and like stretch it out, but we're just going.
That was a thing where I'm just like they're burning through a lot, whereas
they have so much more though.
That's great. That's awesome. That's encouraging.
That's cool. Yeah, I think that's gonna be. I mean, it's always going to be interesting. Like every week, I think that's going to be one of the things that I think is actually going to be very kind of that'll be cool about the show. So I think that those are the couple of things that we got to look out for next step. I think that those are going to be the big things that are going to be kind of, and that, and also just like, I think we're going to be getting back with like Ruby and Hippolyta, and we're going to develop them a lot more, which I'm actually very excited to kind of see. Like,
cool as fuck.
Ruby's cool as shit. Hippolyta's going to be pissed. You guys left with my husband and I don't have a husband anymore.
Yeah, and even in the afterlife, he's going to be dancing around with Dora when she gets to the afterlife.
Oh my God.
Motherfucker.
That's gonna be a weird reunion in the afterlife.
That will be.
You can't cheat on me. You're a ghost that's cheating on me with another ghost.
But then Uncle George, who is just like he's famously very good as like a pep talk type of guy. Very smooth. What if he just does the thing where he did, but he does it with Dora and he does it with Hippolyta?
He got two hands, right?
He's got 2 hands. He can just be like, this is what they
knuckle deep in both of them.
That is what I'm talking about, man. Finger popping in the afterlife. This is what people come for right here. They come for the analysis, and then they stay for the finger popping and the analysis.
Yeah, somebody in the comments, I think it's Tiana. It has a thing that she thinks that Hippolyta, the astronomer, she will be a time traveler.
Interesting. That's interesting. Oh, hey, shout out to Black Velvet over there. Thank you so much. If you have anything that you would like us to talk about, we appreciate you so much. You can head us up. We'll discuss it right at the end.
Black Velvet. Also, I think Chance gave us a little love earlier.
Oh, is that right?
So I want to thank you both. It's amazing.
All of this, yeah, I think we're up to. I think, given where we stand right now, I think all of this is just going to go to the Milwaukee Freedom Fund.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
over to the
just get it over to the people that need it. So like we did last time, I think that always like a one thing that we can kind of end on it, and then we can do some parting thoughts, and we can do some other stuff. I think that we did a slow motion scene last week, and we'd be remiss if we did not do another one. And I thought that this one, because I think that there's also within this is. The other one, the one that we did last, the scene where we slowed it down by 25% and really got to kind of like sports call it, was Blinky killing the racist cops. And of course, that was more just for us. That was for me to tweak my nipples to while we watched it and shit, like it was just like, but we had some fun with it. This one, I think, is slow-mo. It is still gross, but I think that there is a lot of character stuff in there. And the slow motion scene for this week is going to be the birth of baby Blinky number 25. I don't know how many. 2,500 Blinkies.
But it's a white women birthing monsters for years now. Birthing monsters since
seriously.
So we've been birthing monsters a long time.
The whole thing with this scene, this Blinky is in the cow. And so what this scene kind of says to me, other than being
spring roll,
other than being like just delicious looking, is the fact that this, and just these weird, everybody's like all happy and shit. Oh, it's so weird. But like what this shows, this was the first time where it kind of totally showed how much kind of weird flex Christina has. Like the fact that like does Samuel know that she has like this army of monsters? I'm assuming he does.
He was birthing. I think he was assisting in the births of the monsters to get them like kind of on his side. I don't know, but I
Interesting.
think she needed to learn how to birth the monsters if she was going to take out her dad.
Because because
she said that was the first time. That was her first.
Oh, okay. So that was like, oh, and that would explain kind of why she sort of kind of lovingly kind of embraced it and stuff like that, because it's sort of like
forget your first puke monster.
You never forget your first nightmare spring roll. No, but like that.
Give that baby a Back the Blue T-shirt and an AK-47.
Oh, God.
Isn't he beautiful? Let's move to the suburbs.
Seriously, I mean, like, but I think that was kind of like
that was dark.
Yeah, right. That was dark.
So
but
where's the lie?
But where's the lie? That you're damn right. But no, but insofar as like that was sort of like she's like, okay, I can rebuild my house as a matriarchy. Is kind of like what that symbolizes for her, and the fact that she was just showing her that she had like some kind of like she was hustling on the side to basically kind of to learn, because he would never teach her how to do this shit.
No, she's been taking initiative, so I'm like, I'll give her props. I don't trust her. I don't really like her, but I'm gonna give her props. She sets her mind to a task, and she knew she was gonna take out this entire sect. She was going to have to learn how to birth these things.
Yeah. It was almost like, in a weird way, it was like she kind of, it's like, I do think that like Hannah was, I think it was Tick's. She was harnessing kind of Tick's power or his ability to destroy everything, but it was Hannah that saved Tick. Like he probably would have been buried. He would have been buried in the rubble had Hannah not presented herself, been like, listen, I know how to follow me. I know you're disoriented. I know you're getting your literal life force sucked out of you so we can grow this fucking weird Eden bullshit or whatever we're doing.
Atticus alive is not helpful for her because he actually threatens her because apparently, it's the whole male heir versus female heir. She's like on top, has probably more power than him, but it's still a threat. He's still a threat. And 100%. I think she was expecting him to die.
Yeah, but what about that ring? Like,
the ring,
do you think she gave him that? Do you think Samuel knew that the ring was in play?
I don't think that. See, that's the thing. Because she gave it
to him on the sly.
She gave it to him. Right.
The ring was part of it. Like, I think she was supposed to give him the ring. But that black stuff, I think she did some sort of magic on the ring.
Right.
That and the black stuff coming out.
Well, insofar
he could have very easily died in the rebels. She didn't know Hannah was gonna leave.
Insofar, right? I think insofar as like, think about this, we never saw Samuel do any magical shit. He never waved his.
He was kind of a skeptic, a little.
And he was, and again, like, and he was like kind of like a second cousin or something. Like he wasn't even really like the true blue type of thing. She's like, no, I'm the dragon. I'm the fucking Targaryen here. Like I'm the motherfucker that's actually supposed to be running shit, and I actually have abilities. I just never remember him kind of hand waving anything. So she's got real powers. So that maybe that's where the fucking ring kind of thing kind of comes into play. Maybe, hopefully they illuminate it a little bit and stuff like, because that's it. That is the only other thing that I do get a little.
Like in the book, he had like protection.
Did he have it? Okay.
Like a little bit, but I mean,
a little bit.
Really, but the show is different, so.
The show is different for sure. Yeah.
And his power, he was mostly leaning on other people's belief
and spying into their nightmare bedrooms.
Yeah, right. It's like, come on and look at that snake dick. The fucking like so the so that kind of wraps it up as far as like everything that we've been talking about for this week. Did we have any super chats with any thoughts or anything like that we wanted to go through, y'all?
We got to all our super chats, but
okay.
Yeah, like Tiana. I'm like blind and like
No, you're good.
It's Tiana.
Yep.
Had said that Hannah had done a hand wave, and that was when they all got smoked.
Yes.
So yeah, no, I think I am of the opinion Christina was thinking she was messing up the ceremony and they were all going to die in the rubble. And she
100%.
took out the entire bloodline in the house. Yeah. I don't think she was counting on Hannah saving the day.
And then another thing, we'll just do it just one more just for CJ over there. Thank you again so much, dear. And also, yeah, I think that it's one of those things where, and obviously it's not, we're not bestowed on it as, the people that are going to bring, because the thing is, one thing that I like to say, even it's like, no matter how much you may or may not kind of consider yourself an ally or something like that.
Oh yeah, I step into feminism all the time. So I'm not fallible to that. Class
is always in session, and it's one of those things where it's kind of like the striving to kind of do that. I think is one of the is sort of like the best thing that we can kind of do, especially
and if
at this
I'm on this chat and I ever step in it. I love
call it
feedback.
out. Exactly.
I love feedback because it actually helps us all be better people. Because we're 3 white people talking about heavy ass shit. Even though respect the material.
Right. But even so, I think we are in the process of reaching out to some guest creators and stuff like that. Hopefully that we'll be able to have on here in the coming weeks. Again, to bring in obviously like get a little bit of diversity going on in this here show and stuff like that, which I think that never hurts from. But I think that's something we're going to be working on for the next couple of weeks, and we hope that you guys keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much to everyone.
Yeah, thank you. I love these Thursdays.
These Thursdays are great, right? It's like, we get to do a book report that of a book that we really like, which I think only happened like twice in high school. I think, you know what I mean? Like where I'm just like, I want to talk about this thing, like this, and it's always
I have some stuff to talk about.
Right. It's like, I got something to say about this, but yeah, I mean, thank you so much to everybody, to CJ, Chance, Tiana, everybody, Shatara, thank you so much to everyone who chipped in and stuff like that. It's going to a really great cause. It's going to people that need it right now. And yeah, I mean, for next week, you kind of see what I'll do is, if you guys come back to this video once it kind of gets republished onto YouTube, I'm going to put all of our categories in the top comment. And if you want to make your own picks, so you got them at the ready. I always love hearing people's takes on this shit. It helps us a lot. It enriches our fucking enjoyment of the show. And that's what you guys do for all of us. Yeah. So thank you guys.
If you want to hit us up, and we do have a Discord running, which if you guys want to join our Discord and get on the channel, we love hearing from people on the Discord. It's your chance to actually get some stuff in advance and start some threads so that when we get to address it on the actual live stream, we've already done our homework. We can get some clips ahead of time. So we'd love for you to just send me a direct message on whatever. You can find us, and we will get you added to that Discord.
Absolutely, yo. Yeah. Just reach out to us. And again, if you're cool and you just reach out to us, we'll become this has literally happened to us, where we just make friends. Through this thing. So and I love doing shit like that. And we really consider you guys to be a big kind of partner in us doing this every week. So we thank you to everybody. We appreciate you so much. And yeah, I mean, if you guys also hit up Dustin for the Discord, he'll get you hooked up with that. If you guys want to support the channel in any way, you can head over to patreon.com/SeanTankTop. There's different tiers. You can go $2 a month, you can go $5 a month, whatever it has you. And that gets you a bunch of free and really cool content. Hours of content that you can check out, but that's one way to support the channel. Thank you guys very much. Keep liking and subscribing. Keep checking out our stuff. We appreciate you guys so much. And we'll let you guys go and talk to y'all later. Bye, everybody.
See you later, everybody.
Bye.